Welcome to the deep dive. We grab a stack of sources, your suggestions, our notes, and pull out the key insights.
That's the plan.
And today, our mission, it's a deep dive into an ancient philosophy, but one with really surprising, potent modern relevance.
Absolutely.
We're exploring this timeless wisdom that promises, well, resilience, confidence, a kind of calmness in your daily life. It feels like, maybe you missed the class on how to live.
Yeah. That hits home for a lot of people.
Well, what we found suggests this might be it.
That's right. We are talking about Stoicism. And at its core, it really is a philosophy that tries to teach you how to live.
Okay.
And yeah, it started way back. Ancient Greece, think before Roman gladiators, before the big public baths. But the wisdom itself, it's incredibly applicable today. Our world, social media, all these complex challenges.
It's amazing how needed this kind of thing feels. One of the authors we looked at, he shared his own story
Right.
about realizing after years of school, he felt like he totally missed the class on how to live. He knew math, science,
Sure. The usual subjects.
but not how to handle fear or anger or grief or even just build real confidence. And for him, Stoicism, it sort of offered those missing pieces.
Exactly.
It really shows that like fundamental need for a philosophy for living well.
And that is the promise of Stoicism. It's not some, dusty academic thing.
Right. Not just theory.
No, it's meant to be a practical guide
Mm.
for living a great life, a supremely happy life, one that flows smoothly, even when things get tough, really tough.
So resilience then.
Yeah, resilience, building that emotional stamina so you're not just knocked around by stuff that happens, finding calm when everything's chaotic.
You mentioned it simplifies decision-making too and connects to positive psychology. How does that work?
Well, think of it like a filter. It cuts through the noise, gets you focused only on what you actually control, so decisions become clearer, simpler, less agonizing over stuff you can't influence anyway.
Okay, that makes sense.
And yeah, the positive psychology link is striking. Modern cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which is, heavily researched.
Very effective, yeah.
It uses techniques like challenging negative thought patterns that are almost identical to what Epictetus was talking about centuries ago. How we interpret events is key.
Okay, let's tackle this head on because there's a huge misunderstanding out there.
The emotionless robot idea.
Exactly. Stoicism is not about suppressing emotions or hiding them or being like, Spock.
No, definitely not. That's a big misconception.
It's more about, well, acknowledging the feelings, right?
Hmm?
Taking a breath, figuring out what caused them,
Reflecting.
and then learning how to sort of tame them, redirect them, not kill them off. I like that inner wolf idea.
Oh, yeah.
This powerful part of you kicks in, makes you want to clench your fist when you're angry, right?
That initial impulse.
Yeah. And the Stoics said you don't have to follow that impulse blindly. You can train yourself. Act calmly even if you feel angry, or act bravely even if you feel scared.
It's about the response, not the initial feeling.
Right. The goal isn't just constant happiness, that eudaimonia they talk about. It's a smoothly flowing, fulfilling life. And tranquility, that's a welcome byproduct. It comes from living well.
That distinction is so important. Taming, not suppressing. It actually reminds me of the origin story.
Zeno.
Xenocidium, yeah.
Yeah.
Around 320 BCE, he was a merchant Phoenician, lost everything in shipwreck, all his valuable purple dye, his whole fortune.
Oh.
Disaster, right? But it washed him up in Athens. He finds a book about Socrates, gets totally hooked, asks where he can find people like Socrates, gets pointed to Crates the cynic. And later, Zeno looked back at that shipwreck and said, get this, I made a prosperous voyage when I suffered shipwreck.
Incredible. Turning disaster into opportunity.
Exactly. That sets the whole Stoic tone about adversity. It's not the end. It could be a new beginning.
So Zeno starts it, but who are the big names later in Roman times? The ones whose writings we actually have.
Good question. Most of what we know comes from 4 key Roman Stoics. First up, Seneca.
Ah, the famous one.
Yeah.
Advisor to Nero.
Yeah. Lived this incredibly dramatic, turbulent life. Playwright, super wealthy, actually. Made a lot of money.
Which led to criticism, right? Being called a hypocrite. Rich
Yeah.
guy preaching indifference to wealth.
Sometimes, yeah. It's a fair question people still debate.
Mm-hmm.
But his stoicism was his anchor through all of it. Even when Nero, ordered him to commit suicide.
Intense. Who else?
Then there's Musonius Rufus. Maybe less famous, but really practical. He didn't write stuff down himself, but his student Lucius did, thankfully.
What was his focus?
Practical living. And he was really ahead of his time on some things. Believed in education for everyone, women and men. which was pretty radical back then.
Definitely.
Next, Epictetus. He was actually born a slave and crippled. His name just meant property.
Wow, from slave to philosopher.
Yeah. His teachings, recorded by his student Arian, the Discourses, the Enchiridion, they really stress living the philosophy, not just talking about it. His famous line is, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Talk about resilience.
A living example.
Totally. And finally, Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king.
The Emperor of Rome.
Most powerful man on earth, probably. And his meditations, they were his private journal. Just notes to himself on how to be better. Never meant for publication.
And he was influenced by Epictetus, the former slave.
Heavily. Despite all his power, Marcus showed incredible restraint. He used Stoicism to guide himself, not really to preach it to everyone else.
It's interesting how these later guys made it more, well, livable. Compared to the Cynics, maybe. They allowed for some comforts.
Yeah, that's a key point. They learned from Socrates and the Cynics, sure. But the Cynics could be pretty extreme, very ascetic.
Like Diogenes living in a barrel.
Right. The Stoics refined it. They taught you could enjoy good things, wealth, a nice house, but the trick was not clinging to them, developing inner detachment.
So you could have nice things, just don't let them own you.
Exactly. That made Stoicism way more practical and appealing for people living regular lives in society, not just withdrawing from it, both then and now, really.
Okay, fantastic history lesson. Really sets the scene. So we've met the key players. How do these big ideas actually help us today? That brings us to what we're calling the Stoic happiness triangle.
Right. A way to kind of structure the core principles.
Yeah, 3 fundamental corners. If you get this framework, it really helps you handle challenges, tame those emotions we talked about.
Precisely. 3 corners working together for that smoothly flowing life.
Okay, corner number 1. Live with arete, virtue.
Arete, yeah.
And this isn't just like being nice. It's about expressing your highest self. Always. Being the best version of you right here, right now.
Using reason, living by your values, not just wishing things were different.
And for the Stoics, virtue wasn't just a good thing. It was like the only true good, right? Because it's the one thing you fully control.
That's the core insight. And the potential for it, it's within all of us.
So how did they see that playing out?
Well, they used simple analogies, like a grapevine's purpose is to produce grapes. That's enough for a grapevine. For humans, our unique gift is reason. That's what separates us from other animals. So virtue, arete, is the perfection of that reason, living according to our nature as rational beings.
So applying that, where does it show up day to day?
3 main areas. First, in your own mind, being rational, wise. Second, with other people, social harmony, fairness, the common good.
Right.
And third, in how you relate to the universe, to events, accepting what happens and responding wisely.
To make arete clearer, they had those 4 cardinal virtues.
Exactly. Helps break it down. Wisdom, knowing what's truly good, bad, or indifferent, how to act. Justice. Fairness. Kindness, how we treat others. Courage, facing what you fear, enduring hardship well. And self-discipline or temperance, mastering your desires and impulses.
Seneca's nightly review fits here, right? Putting himself on trial.
Yeah, pleading my case at my own court. He talks about getting mad about a seating arrangement.
Huh, relatable.
And then realizing in his review, you lunatic, what difference does it make which part of the couch you sit on? It's that kind of practical self-correction.
And that brings up attention, Prasosh. Stoic mindfulness.
Exactly. Prasosh, conscious awareness. Marcus Aurelius talked about vigorous attention to the task at hand.
Like walking on broken glass, you'd watch every single step very carefully.
Perfect analogy. That level of care applied to your actions, making sure they align with virtue. Because ultimately, your character, that's your most precious asset.
So character trumps everything else.
Character beats beauty, riches, power. You name it. Doing good for its own sake. Like the vine makes grapes, the horse runs its race. It's just what you do.
And those actions should benefit the hive, the common good. What's good for the hive is good for the bee.
Okay, that focus on what you control leads perfectly to corner number 2, which you said is maybe the cornerstone teaching, especially from Epictetus.
Absolutely. Focus on what you control.
His handbook, the Enchiridion, starts right there. Of things, some are in our power and others are not. Said always have that ready, like a dagger.
Powerful image, isn't it? And they were pretty clear on the categories.
Bring it down for us. Okay, wholly in our power. Our choices, our judgments, our intentions, our considered opinions, basically our inner world, how we decide to respond.
What's not in our power, then?
Completely out of our power. Things like the weather, where you were born, your ethnicity, other people's actions.
And stuff in between, partially in our power.
Right. Partially in our power.
Hmm.
Things like your health, your wealth, your reputation, relationships, the specific outcome of your actions. You can influence them, but you don't have final say. External factors always play a role.
So Marcus Aurelius reminding himself to cultivate virtues wholly in your own power. That's the key.
Precisely. Focus your energy there. Integrity, dignity, kindness, those are yours to control. It's really the heart of the Serenity Prayer, isn't it?
Yeah. Accept what you can't change, courage for what you can, wisdom to know the difference.
Exactly that.
I like the Stoic archer analogy for this one.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
The archer's success isn't just hitting the bullseye, because, a gust of wind could come, a bird flies by, stuff happens.
Right. Things outside their control.
So success is in the process. Did they train well? Aim carefully. Release the arrow smoothly. Focus on doing your best. That brings calm, knowing you did everything you could control. The outcome is, well, it's the outcome.
And that ties into Stoic acceptance,
Yeah.
accepting reality as it is.
Not resignation, though.
No, not passive resignation. It's acknowledging what is. Like one source puts it, suffering often comes from resisting what happens, fighting reality.
You mentioned Edison and the fire.
Yeah, Thomas Edison. His whole lab complex burns down. Huge disaster, his reaction. Tells his son, go get your mother. They'll never see a fire like this again.
Wow.
And the next day, he's planning the rebuild. He accepted what happened, didn't waste energy raging against it, and focused immediately on what to do next. That's Stoic acceptance in action. Make the best of what is.
Okay, but they also talked about indifferent things, health, wealth, reputation. If they're indifferent, why are some called preferred indifference? Seems contradictory.
Good point. It can sound tricky. They're indifferent because they're neutral regarding your virtue, your flourishing. They don't make you a good or bad person.
Okay.
But all things being equal, you'd naturally prefer health over sickness, wealth over poverty. So they're preferred.
But not essential.
Not essential for a good life, for eudaimonia. Your virtue in dealing with sickness or poverty is what truly matters, not the sickness or poverty itself. You use them, you deal with them, but you don't cling to them as the source of your happiness.
The poker analogy helps here.
I think so. You don't choose the cards you're dealt, that's external circumstances, in different things.
Health, wealth, luck.
Right. But you do control how you play the hand. Skillfully, virtuously, with courage and wisdom. That's what matters. Playing well is the goal, not necessarily winning the pot every time. A good player plays a bad hand well.
Okay, that makes sense. Which brings us to the third corner of the triangle. Take responsibility.
Exactly. If virtue is the highest good and virtue is within our control.
Then our flourishing, our happiness is ultimately up to us.
Yes. It's a process goal, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how you choose to act, moment by moment. That's where happiness lies, not in achieving some external outcome.
This really pushes back against a victim mentality, doesn't it?
Completely.
Hmm?
The Stoics would say outside events can't ruin your life. Only you can ruin it by your reactions, by getting, jerked around, by things you don't control, by abandoning your reason.
So that idea of I'll be happy when I get the promotion, when I buy the car.
Yeah, it's a broken formula for the Stoics. Happiness isn't conditional on externals. It's found within, by aligning your desires with what's truly in your power, your own choices and judgments.
This reminds me of Viktor Frankl, his idea of the freedom of choice in that gap.
Yes, between stimulus and response, there is a space.
But it feels like sometimes that space is tiny or non-existent. We just react.
We do automatically. That's where the awareness, the persoche, comes in again. Mindfulness helps you notice that gap, step into it, and consciously choose your response instead of just being driven by impulse.
So it's our judgments about things, not the things themselves.
That's Epictetus' huge insight. Men are disturbed not by the things which happen, but by the opinions about the things. The event itself is neutral. It's your interpretation, your judgment, that causes the suffering.
Marcus Aurelius put it bluntly. Remove the judgment, and the hurt itself is removed.
Exactly.
Right.
Break a glass. Okay, glass is broken. Judge yourself as clumsy or stupid. That's where the negative feeling comes from. Change the judgment.
So if our judgments and reactions are key, the negative emotions, anger, fear, grief, procrastination, even they're the real enemy, right? The villain, stopping us living that smooth life.
That's a good way to put it. They make us act impulsively against our values. They hijack our reason.
What do the Stoics see as the main causes? Why do we get overwhelmed by them?
Two main reasons, really. First, faulty value judgments. We want or fear things that are ultimately beyond our control because we mistakenly think they are essential for our happiness.
It's like getting obsessed with wealth or terrified of public opinion.
Precisely. Or even just judging rain as terrible instead of just rain. These wrong judgments about externals lead to cravings, anxieties, anger,
And the second reason,
lack of awareness, unconsciousness. We just go with our first impression, that automatic reaction. We don't pause in that gap, like getting instantly furious because your brother didn't notice the new toilet paper you bought.
yeah, the small stuff.
Without awareness, that initial thought, he didn't even notice, leads straight to irrational anger, bypassing reason completely.
So awareness buys you time. Time to see clearly, make a rational choice, stop yourself getting swept away.
Exactly. You master yourself, act rationally more often, stumble into folly less often.
Okay, we've got the theory, the history, the principles, but knowing isn't enough. Epictetus warned about being miserable shipwrecks if we don't practice.
Right. Philosophy was the art of living. You got to use your life as the material. Hit the waves, as you said. Become a warrior philosopher.
So let's get practical. What are some key Stoic practices people can actually do? Tools for the toolkit.
Okay, let's run through a few powerful ones. First, the Stoic art of acquiescence. Accept and even love whatever happens. Amor fati.
Like Edison with the fire.
Perfect example. Not passive resignation, but embracing reality. See it, accept it, figure out the virtuous response. What's next?
Okay.
Next, what stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius' famous line, obstacles aren't roadblocks, they're opportunities.
Fuel for the fire.
Exactly. Ryan Holiday talks about this a lot. It's a formula for turning negatives into positives. Every challenge is a chance to practice wisdom, courage, patience, makes you stronger.
That reframes things completely. What about daily routines?
Crucial. Prepare yourself for the day, morning routine, and review your day, evening routine.
Like Marcus in the morning, reminding himself he'll meet difficult people.
Yeah, bracing himself realistically, but also reminding himself of the precious privilege to be alive, gratitude alongside realism.
And the evening review? Seneca's court.
Seneca's self-examination, yeah. What did I do well? Where did I slip up? How can I improve tomorrow? Marcus's meditations were basically his version of this. Constant self-improvement.
Keeps you honest. What else?
Two related ones. Contemplate your own death. Memento mori.
Remember, you will die.
And consider everything is borrowed from nature. These sound grim, but they're actually about appreciating life more.
How so?
Epictetus said, when kissing your child, remind yourself, I am kissing a mortal. It's not about expecting them to die, but appreciating the present moment intensely, because nothing is permanent. Everything, health, loved ones, possessions, it's all on loan.
Reduces attachment, prepares you for loss.
Exactly. Softens the blow, increases gratitude now.
Okay, powerful stuff. Next.
Postpone your reaction. Test your impressions, that pause we talked about.
Stepping into the gap.
Yeah. When a strong impression hits anger, fear, desire, tell it, wait for me a little impression. Let me see what you are and what you represent. Test it against reason before you react.
Buys you that critical thinking time.
Absolutely. Then, dealing with others. Kindness is strength, and we are all limbs of the same body.
So being kind isn't weakness.
For the Stoics, it's the opposite. It takes strength and discipline to be kind, especially to difficult people. Marcus said we're made for cooperation, like feet, like hands.
The hive and the bee again?
Right. What hurts the community hurts the individual. Be forgiving. Understand people err out of ignorance.
Okay, final one.
Win at what matters and eliminate the non-essential. Focus your energy.
Don't get lost in the weeds.
Exactly. Seneca said it's better to understand your own life's balance sheet than the corn trades. We get experts in trivial stuff, news, gossip, TV shows.
While neglecting our own character.
Yeah. Prioritize virtue, relationships, things that truly matter. Cut out the trifles, the mindless activities. Your time and attention are finite. Use them wisely. Your character is your real wealth.
Wow. That's a lot to digest, but it really shows how practical Stoicism can be. It's this blend of knowing, doing, and growing. It really puts the power back in your hands, doesn't it? The power to live a good, resilient, calm life, pretty much regardless of what's happening outside.
It does. It all comes back to taking a responsibility for your inner world, which leads to that final thought from Marcus Aurelius, something he wrote just for himself, remember?
What was it?
Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one.
Powerful. Stop talking, start doing.
That's the challenge.
Yeah.
And the invitation. Take these tools, apply them. Continue your own quest for the good life.
A perfect place to wrap up. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Stoicism. Hope you found it insightful and maybe feel inspired to put some of it into practice.